What is up, college hoops fans and Mountaineer fans? This is Couz, and welcome to this episode of Hoops from the Hills. My partner, Mountaineer Paul, and I were able to sit down and talk with West Virginia Athletic Director and Vice President Wren Baker. We talked about multiple things. We talked about West Virginia's basketball schedule was actually just dropped a few minutes before the interview started. We were able to talk about the job Josh Eilert, Jay Couz, and the staff are doing in recruiting in the transfer portal. And we were able to talk a little bit about the Mountaineer Madness event coming up. So stick around right after this word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
I think we're going to start out with some basketball stuff here today, Wren. And I just got to say, first of all, you've got two coaches in their own rights doing just an incredible job right now. One in football, one in basketball. The job that, and you hear the usual names, but I think Jay Couz and Josh Eilert, and there are probably multiple guys on that staff, but these are the two guys that I view because they both have such different roles in what they do, obviously. These guys have just done such an excellent job. And the philosophy change, too, is something we wanted to ask you about. So obviously, the way Hugs recruited is different than the way I think these guys are tackling it. Hugs had his own vision, and in those days, you had 3 or 4 years to build these guys up. Transfer portal era, if guys can leave. These guys are going after big fish now, and these are 5-star guys, 4-star guys we're seeing on campus consistently. Can you speak to that little bit of a philosophy change there, or do you think it's just maybe it's just that time for West Virginia and the NIL thing? What can you say with that?
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, with the portal the way it is now, NIL the way it is, transfers are going to be a significant part of everybody's recruiting. But if you go all in on transfers, I think you do that at a significant loss of your high school recruiting pipeline if you're not careful, because if you neglect that over time, that becomes problematic, and you can't just always bank on getting transfers for everything. So I think for a program like ours, you want to stay connected. You want to be able to get some of those traditional program players, high school players that can contribute, but you also understand that because of the portal rules, you could spend a lot of time developing somebody and they leave before they really start making significant contributions. And so it's a delicate balance. And I think all of our coaches are having to adjust to that in real time. That's something, the way that you recruit now is different than it was 6 months ago and a year ago, when forever recruiting stayed pretty much the same. And so, I think Coach Eilert, Jay, the rest of that staff has done a really good job of just trying to stay in constant assessment of the landscape and what works and doesn't work. Certainly, the NIL opportunities and the growth of those over the last 12 months or so, I think is helping us on the recruiting front in a variety of sports and in a variety of ways. Country Roads Trust, I mean, their success is been tremendous, even in the 9 months I've been here, the growth and success. And that started 7-8 months before I got here. So I think all of those things are contributing factors. But we're really excited to have really quality players, but also quality people on campus, considering coming to WVU. And I think Coach Eilert and Jay have been a big part of that.
Awesome. Great answer. Right before we jumped on the air, Wren, the basketball schedule for 2024, or I'm sorry, 23-24 came out. So real quick, obviously, we play Kansas State twice, we play TCU twice, and we play UCF and Cincinnati each twice in Big 12 play. We open on the road at Houston in Big 12 play. When it comes to that Big 12 basketball schedule, can you kind of go into what how was the cake made? How does the whole process work? How was it decided who you play twice, who you play once, all that stuff? Can you kind of explain that process?
Yeah, there's a certain part of it, and we see so many schedules, and so you'll have to excuse me for not remembering the exact particulars of just the
That's
men's
fine.
basketball because every one of them is a little different.
Right.
But basically, you get certain matchups that are protected, and so for us, Cincinnati's probably always going to be one of those because they're the one is geographically closest.
Hmm.
Um, maybe UCF because they're in the time zone, and we're really probably the closest to them.
Right.
And so and then the rest of them are random. And
Okay.
there's a little bit of factors of trying to project where your program's been from a success point and where you expect it to be so that you give more of the top level teams chances to play each other instead of if you have somebody who happens to be below 200 in the net playing them twice, if you're a top 5 team, can really mess with your net and
Gotcha.
drop you a seed line. So there's some involvement in that as well. There's a gentleman. He actually works at Michigan State. He got a start in college basketball working for Tom Izzo. I'm not sure what he does for Michigan State overall, but his name's Kevin Palgo, and he has a side business, and he's like a scheduling guru. And so he'll put all of these different factors in there, and it'll spit
Mm.
out several schedules. And then the league will look at those. They'll make adjustments. They'll try and balance it where it might need to be balanced in certain cases. And they look at things like how many days rest that each team has, and how many times is there an advantage, disadvantage, and they try to even those things out. But there's not a perfect schedule that's equal for everybody. But I think people would be surprised at how intricate that scheduling process is because they just take a bunch of factors, they
Hmm.
put them into the computer, it spits them out, and then they're trying to project what's best for the league as a whole in terms of uh, helping everybody's net and getting it because the goal is to get the most teams in the NCAA tournament and
Right.
of the teams that get in for them to get the best seed that they can get.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for explaining that. I wasn't aware of that, of the gentleman you mentioned, and how that worked. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners weren't either. So thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, and every sport's different, right? So the philosophy is probably going to be different for football and men's basketball,
Hmm.
where there's so much money in those playoff opportunities, whether it's NCAA tournament or the CFP, and nobody wants to be disadvantaged. So, for me, a lot of people are like, well, now that we have these 16 teams coming up, surely we'll play in divisions. Well, in football, if you play in divisions, then you're going to, let's say you go East West, you're going to have East champion and West champion. Well, your West champion may be your fourth best team, and so
Right.
if you put them in a championship game, somebody could actually fall out of a playoff spot because they may lose to the fourth
Hmm.
best team in your league. Whereas if you don't have divisions and you're playing 1 versus 2 in terms of CFP ranking, there's less potential for something like that to happen. So there's a lot of discussions that go in there, and every sport has a different committee. And in some of the sports, the coaches will get a lot of say and they make recommendations, and that's considered by a smaller committee of ads and administrators, and then ultimately makes its way up to the ads for a vote on format. And then once the format's decided, they're pretty careful. They'll send us a draft of the schedule, so I got to see it a few days ago, but they don't
Hmm.
allow a lot of window for feedback because they know if they do that, every coach wants to pick their exact
Yeah.
schedule and days and times.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Couz, I'll jump in with the question you were going to ask since
Yeah.
you asked that one.
That's fine.
Um, we've heard a lot about Mountaineer Madness, and I think it piqued our interest. We actually thought about doing a show on that, but we wanted to get a little bit of more of an explanation, just what all that entails, where it came from, who had the idea for it. I think it's such a great idea. Can you go into that just a little bit, please?
Yeah, I think it's a combination really of our marketing team, our creative team, our basketball staff, just trying to do something different to create some excitement, energy, enthusiasm around football, and some of those high level discussions. I'm a part of. I'm not as in the weeds on this one, honestly. But what I have tried to do is we put more money into our marketing, game presentation, game promotions budget overall for all sports. And we really challenged our staff to come up with some new and unique ideas. And that's why you see the Almost Heaven Village at football. Maybe you've noticed we're doing more pyro and fireworks and stuff like that than we've done in the past. So there's a variety of things that they have come up with. And we've got a lot of talented young creative people. And so if you just give them a little bit of, not a lot of budget, but a little budget and a little bit of rope to use their minds, they do a great job. And so I think they're still flushing out all the plans for Mountaineer Madness, but I think the concept is basically for people just to get a chance to come and celebrate, get to know our teams, and have a great time. We've got a lot of new faces, and it'll be a chance for everybody to just get a chance to connect with those players.